This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag. Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag is Baton Rouge's longest running and best television show. Who would have believed that?
My best friend, Lee Feinswag, look at the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. Remember, it all starts at Breck. Now, your host, Lee Feinswag.
So here you go. It's Sports 225.
I was doing Knuckles.
Knuckles. There you go. It's Matt Moscona as my guest. And what's great is that every Tuesday, not used to be Monday, now it's Tuesday. One day we'll go back to Monday. I don't know. But I go on his show. And he's a radio guy. He does a show from 3 to 6 on 104.5 ESPN. And he came up with this thing, get off my lawn, right? You know, and he paints me as the cranky old guy. And I am a cranky old guy, but I'm not nearly as cranky as he paints me out to be. What's great, though, is that now he's the cranky guy. You are cranky.
But I'm not old.
No, well, you're old. I'm
old
ancient. I'm ancient. So we come to you the week following the week that was. And fair enough. It seems like a million years ago. On Saturday morning, LSU made Ed Ogeron its head coach.
That's a thing that happened in real life.
It did. And on Monday, Matt Moscona returned to what we call the airwaves, although they're really not airwaves anymore. They're other things, but nonetheless, you were there. And for the better part of 3 hours, you ranted and railed. And
ranted might be a bit strong.
Yeah.
I think that given what the parameters surrounding this search were, you fire a national championship winning coach.
Well, one of the greatest coaches, not necessarily the greatest coaches, but a coach with the greatest resume, top 10 resume in the history of college football.
Sure.
Yeah.
You fire Les Miles. You do so unceremoniously, 4 games into his 12th season. And the allure is you've got 2 months for this national search to vet everybody from sea to shining sea, the best and the brightest. And LSU fans are told, we want a young, innovative, sitting head coach, an offensive mind. And after 2 months of vetting, you promote a journeyman defensive line coach whose only stint as a head coach ended in abject failure at Ole Miss from the staff of the guy you just fired. I can't believe it's a thing that happened in real life, that LSU, with their abundance of resources, Lee, it's just lazy. It's lazy. It's poor leadership. And listen, can I just be very clear? I want to just be abundantly clear. Ed Ogeron, I think, is a sincere, passionate guy. I am very earnestly cheering for his success. As a man, I hope that guy has unparalleled success. And at LSU, if you recruit really well, which he will do, and he hires good coordinators and delegates, they can put it together and win some games. For what LSU is, with the resources, being in the Southeastern Conference, unmatched in recruiting in a talent-rich state, all the resources to pay a coach, to pay assistants, they might end up paying coordinators close to $2 million, Lee. And you hired a one-time failed head coach with no track record of success, let alone sustaining elite success.
Well, sustained, of course, is the key word that I always throw out for you. Well, the one thing that I want to point out is, number one, I thought that LSU should hire Ed Ogeron. But the reason why I agree with you from the end that I was thinking he should get hired was they should have just simply said from the get-go, hey, let's see how he does. And if he does well and we feel good about it, he will be our next head coach. And nobody ever said that. Yeah. They just said, he's the interim head coach.
Well, they said it's an audition. I mean, Joe Leva did say this was an audition for Ed Ogeron. And he did well, Lee. But the point is, you played 2 really good football teams while Ed Ogeron was the coach.
Correct.
Okay.
And everybody else was mediocre at best.
The 5 wins, not one of those teams finished this year with a winning conference record. None of them.
Well, like to wit, the first game that he coached was against Missouri, ran up 600 yards, and everybody's like, "Oh, the offense is great now."
They finished 2-6.
They were awful. That was a horrible team.
Ole Miss missed the bowl game. Look, the two legitimate teams you played, you scored a combined 10 points against Alabama and Florida, both of them in your building. What was the single biggest knock on the Les Miles era? Offense.
Didn't score enough points
Where's
and couldn't beat Alabama. Right, and as I've told you,
am I living in the twilight zone?
Well,
am I the only guy sitting here going?
No, but you've taken hits for that stance, and I've taken hits because I said from the get-go, Les Miles should not have been fired. Les Miles should have been the LSU football coach for the entire season, and then if you wanted to fire him. Because what would you have gained? Money. What would you have lost? Nothing, because they wouldn't have lost any more games, and they wouldn't have scored fewer points against Alabama. That's what I've maintained. Now, I understand the whole logic in getting him fired, but if they wanted to fire him, they should have fired him before the season. And I understand everything that you're saying, because I'm sort of like, touching on all the bases. And my next base I'm going to touch is a commercial, because we're going to go to break. And we get back, I'm going to tell you why I think LSU's lucky not to have hired Tom Herman.
And I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Okay. He's Matt Moscona, and luckily he is a great guy, a great guest, full of opinions and other stuff. And I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Joe Martin, president of ITI Technical College. You're not a number here at ITI. You're known by name. The staff and the instructors work diligently for your success, because your success is our success. ITI is family owned and part of this community. Our 10-acre campus has been here for over 40 years. Let us evaluate your credits to determine if they'll transfer here. ITI is accredited by the Accrediting Commission of Career Schools and Colleges. ITI Technical College. Begin your journey for a better life.
All right, we're back on Sports 225. My guest is Matt Moscona, and I can't imagine we're going to talk about too much other than the LSU football coaching hire, search, whatever. So from the get-go, which I've used that phrase, I think, now for the third time.
Get-go?
From the beginning.
It's a good phrase.
You wanted and were convinced that LSU would hire Jimbo Fisher, the head coach at Florida State, the former LSU offensive coordinator, and you had people within that group who you obviously were in contact with to have firm belief that Jimbo turned the job down last November.
No.
Probably. No, did not turn it down last November?
No. F. King Alexander pulled the deal off the table the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Oh,
that was done last November.
He accepted the job, you think, last year?
They were to the point where they were like printing documents last November.
Really?
And then Jimmy Sexton made one last power play for a little more money, and F. King Alexander recoiled and pulled it off the table. It was done.
Okay, well, I'll believe you,
done.
Because you would not say such things if they weren't true and you didn't have good sources on this.
I would not say such things. Correct.
And so Les Miles kept the job, and of course, in the subsequent months afterwards, everybody was like, wow, this turned out great for LSU because they finished strong, the recruiting season was great, everybody loved Les, and there was every reason to think going into this season, things will be awesome. And as soon as things weren't awesome and he got fired, you were of the belief again that the job would go to Jimbo Fisher.
That was my hope. I never pretend to know what LSU is going to do, what Joe Oliva is going to do, what's going to happen. We saw last November LSU kicked it, and we saw this year they kicked it again. It's like now people are talking about Lane Kiffin coming in as offensive coordinator. I have no doubt they'll make a push for that, but I also think that there's a good chance they'll screw that up too, because it's kind of their track record right now. But Jimbo Fisher was my guy for this reason. Jimbo Fisher is a commodity. He's a guy that is elite at developing quarterbacks. LSU hasn't had a quarterback in 10 years, since Matt Flynn. Maybe a little bit of Zach Mettenberger in 2013, but LSU's not had a good quarterback. They've had pretty much everything else. You bring in the guy who's great at developing quarterbacks, that seems to plug your biggest deficiency, probably be good. And he's won a national title. So he was the guy I would have hired. That would have been my choice if I were asked, which I wasn't.
You weren't. So, broken record, round and round and round. And for those of you who are young, those are things we used to listen to music on. Anyway.
See, you are old.
That's right. But there are not many coaches who can build and sustain and fight through the bad times and sustain and stay at a high level. Les Miles was one of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Texas in its last hire, went after Charlie Strong. By all accounts, a great guy and a really good football coach who had exactly 2 good years as a head coach at Louisville, which I think was the first time he'd ever been a head coach. So Charlie Strong got the job at Texas and has failed miserably as the head coach. And we never knew if Charlie Strong could build or sustain a football program. Now we know that he certainly can't build one, but and, he never got the chance to sustain. So now Texas has hired, stop me if this sounds familiar, a guy who, as the first time as a head coach, came out of the blocks and had an unbelievable season, Tom Herman at Houston last year. And then this year has had an okay season, but not nearly as good, right? And he's your guy. And Texas hires Tom Herman. Now, there's one thing that makes all the Texas people happy about this. Number one is Tom Herman's from Texas, and number two, he's white. Because there were a lot of people at Texas who were boosters and fans who weren't happy that Charlie Strong was a black guy who got that job.
Tom Herman's not from Texas.
Yeah, but he's coached at Texas.
Yes, that's true.
And he's worked other Texas.
He's from Ohio, went to school in California, but he's been in Texas.
He didn't go to Cal Lutheran, did he?
He did.
That's a joke. Since when did Cal Lutheran become the the Youngstown State, the cradle of football? That's okay. So
13 seasons as a coach in Texas.
Correct. So I maintain that Tom Herman is another guy who might do great there. But I don't know if he can build, sustain, or maintain a program. I have no idea because he's only done it for 2 years.
Yeah.
One more thing about Tom Herman.
Oh,
sure. So everybody's hot and bothered about Tom Herman and what a great guy, and he's a guy you railed for to be the coach. Tom Herman's quarterback, who is their leading passer and leading rusher and do everything offensive guy, is a senior. He did not bring him in. His leading tackler is a senior. His leading receiver is a senior. I don't know if the guy can play at this level.
So you do realize that the guy, Greg Ward, the quarterback at Houston, is a receiver, was brought in as a receiver that Tom Herman turned into an all-world quarterback. Tom Herman is like Rain Man. He's literally a genius. His IQ, he is literally a genius.
And don't people refer to his old college teammate Dave Aranda, the LSU defensive coordinator, as a genius?
Yeah.
So together, they were like Mensa.
Tom Herman took a group of 2-star players at the University of Houston, and in year one goes 12-1, wins the Peach Bowl over Jimbo Fisher and Florida State. This year, he's beaten Oklahoma, which is going to win the Big 12, blew them out, and did the same to Louisville, which at the time was a top 5 team. Now they've obviously quit since their goals were off the table. But Tom Herman has more marquee wins in 2 seasons at Houston than Ed Ogeron had in his entire career. Tom Herman is, I'll put it to you this way, in 2 months of vetting, LSU zeroed in on Tom Herman as their guy. It wasn't Jimbo Fisher. It was Tom Herman. Since last Friday, I've had people that were involved with the search give me certain things on Tom Herman, why they were convinced he was the guy, and he is impressive.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'll say this on your show. Right. I've said it. I put it on Twitter. I've said it on my show. I'll say it here as well, so there's further documentation. In my opinion, Tom Herman will win a national championship at Texas within his first 4 years. By 2020, Tom Herman will win a national championship at Texas.
I'm going to make you a friendly wager right now.
Okay.
That 4 years from now, the overall LSU record will be better than the overall Texas record. Not conference, not anything, just what they'll be 4 years from now. So we'll roughly, with maybe if one of them gets in the playoffs, 55 games or so over 4 years.
Okay.
All right? You good for that for a quarter?
How about dinner?
Dinner. Big dinner.
You'll buy me dinner in 2020.
There you go. He's Matt Moscona. He's going to buy me dinner in a few years. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225, and we'll be right back.
Don't let the bed bugs bite you. We'll put them to sleep.
Bed bugs can be transported from most anywhere. Hotels, department stores, even a friend's house.
We've got the bead on bed bugs. Call the bug man today.
Call 923-BUGS.
You like driving that thing like it, just zipping it back or whatever. You staring the camera down? We're back on Sports 225. I'm Lee Feinswag. Matt Moscona is here. He does a radio show every day on 104.5 ESPN from 3 to 6, which you can also listen to in New Orleans. And since this show appears on CST, I think it's 100.3 FM in New Orleans.
100.3 FM, ESPN
And-
New Orleans.
and
We're
now
very
you've-
grateful for Truck Gisclair and the whole folks down there, the whole gang down there that are making that possible.
And you've become a prolific little sports writer now that you write for Gridiron Now.
You know, my degree is actually in print journalism.
No.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah. I hated editing video, so I got a degree in print journalism.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Have you enjoyed writing and getting feedback on that?
I like writing a lot. I think I'm a better writer than I am a speaker, actually. If I really actually were to sit down, I enjoy creative writing. You know, I enjoy feature stories. You actually like taking weeks of research and delving into things and putting together a 10,000 word feature piece. I enjoy that a lot.
And people still want to read good stuff, and they'll take the time to read it, and you get a lot of nice feedback.
I just don't get the opportunity to do much of that.
Yeah, no. So among your topics for your radio show and your writing about Gridiron Now, we really haven't talked much about Ed Ogeron. We kind of went on about the search bid,
Sure.
and we talked about Tom Herman in the last segment. From his end, he won the press conference when he became the coach. He got everybody fired up because they did loosen up the offense just a little bit, made a couple of tweaks here and there, and he said and did all the right things, and the kids embraced him, and they're all really happy about him. All that you've said otherwise, I mean, he has done all the right things, hasn't he? And pushed all the right buttons?
I think for the most part. You know, I think the results against Alabama and Florida are concerning. I also think that letting Leonard Fournette play against Florida shows a great deal shows lack in judgment. Leonard Fournette wasn't going to play against Florida. There's a pregame fight. He comes in and says, "Okay, I want to play now." If he wasn't ready to play before that fight, he shouldn't have let emotion of a 21-year-old jeopardize him or the team, because Darius Geis, a healthy Darius Geis, is a better option than an injured Leonard Fournette.
Darius Geis pretty good, isn't he?
He's a pretty good running back. So I think what you're going to get with Ed Ogeron is he's a big emotional guy. I mean, and I think that can obviously work to your benefit when you have a downtrodden team whose coach was just fired and it's like, hey, we're still playing for something. Let's rally the troops. And he's great at that. He's proven he can do that.
Yeah.
He's an 8-game spark plug as an interim guy. What happens when you're through the grind of fall, or spring, then summer, then fall, and you fall in a little hard times? Like, is that still there?
Well, emotion only takes you so far.
Yeah.
Yes. The pregame speech is great, but by the third quarter, I'm thinking that's worn off.
Yeah. So, yeah. But you asked the question. He's done everything right. I think. Welcome back, former players, which was great. He certainly embraced the program, the history, the culture. Fans are going to love that. He obviously delegated to his assistants, which Les Miles really struggled doing late in his career. I think Ed Ogeron, as I said earlier, he absolutely can win, Lee. I mean, he will recruit. If he hires good coordinators, yeah. I mean, look, I don't know that you get over the Alabama hump, but the point is, yes, he can. The problem, or the stumbling block for me, is Ed Ogeron's success will always be tied to hiring great coordinators. Like we're talking about Jimbo Fisher. Do you even know who Florida State's offensive coordinator is?
I have no idea.
They got co-offensive coordinators, but one of them is Randy Sanders. But that's the point. But as long as you got Jimbo Fisher, your offense is good. With Ed Ogeron, he will always have to hire elite coordinators. If he misses, so they're keeping Aranda. Let's say they get Lane Kiffin. What happens?
Why would Lane Kiffin take this job? Why would Lane Kiffin come from Alabama to LSU?
Well, on the field, Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin that's been a mutually beneficial relationship on the field. Off the field, I think it's pretty clear. That's like oil and water, man. I mean, Saban's married to his job. He's a workaholic. Kiffin likes to have fun. Working for Saban grates on people. So, and Kiffin's contract is up after this year. So most people around college football, not just Baton Rouge or Tuscaloosa, are under the assumption Lane Kiffin is going to be somewhere else next year. But will he be a coordinator for his friend Ed Ogeron, making north of $1.5 million?
Why hasn't Houston offered him the job?
Maybe
they have.
They may.
Yeah.
Or will he be a head coach? And I think that's probably what Lane Kiffin's going to vet in this offseason.
Who do you think hires Les Miles, if anyone, as a head coach?
I think somebody will, because what's clear is the perception of Les outside of Baton Rouge is far greater than the perception of Les Miles in Baton Rouge. and he's going to get a job. He'll get offered a job. It's a matter of what job does he want. Will he humble himself and take Purdue? Will he work at a job in the MAC?
When you say humble yourself for Purdue, I mean, Purdue's a rebuilding program, but it's the Big Ten.
But it's the bottom of the Big Ten, and you're never going to win a championship at Purdue. In the state of Indiana, Purdue is never going to be a front runner where you have Notre Dame in that state, and you also have the University of Indiana. Purdue at its max can do what they did under Joe Tiller when you had a generational talent like Drew Brees and got to a Rose Bowl. I think that's where you max out at Purdue.
Speaking of bowls, I want to ask you about LSU and bowls when we get back. We've got one short segment left on Sports 225, and we'll be right back.
See that dog lover? About to unleash the terror hound on these friendly, unsuspecting canines? Well, I'm the human dislike button, and I see it too. Easy there, Cujo. Taking part in a dog socialization program at a shelter or pet store can help nip this problem in the bud. And no matter how well socialized your pet is, cleaning up the little rays of sunshine they leave in their merry wake is your responsibility. To learn more about me, go to breck.org/HDB.
Coming down the home stretch of another Sports 225, Matt Moscona is here with me. You can go to sports225.com to watch any show. We archive it on the Sports 225 TV channel, including old ones with you, which aren't that old, because we only started doing it this season. And you can get all the show listings for Cox 4 and for CST. And thanks to John Williams of JCW Productions for directing the show, jcwproductions.com for all your digital needs, branding, video, websites, stuff. There you go. LSU's going to go to a bowl. Of course, we're talking about this before this weekend's championship games, after which Saturday night, Sunday morning, everybody gets told what bowls are going to.
Yeah. Remember, it's a new way that bowls are selected now. So a lot of people, there's been a lot of talk around LSU about the Sugar Bowl still. That's not going to happen. So the highest ranked team in the college football committee rankings, playoff committee rankings, the highest SEC team not in the playoff goes to the Sugar Bowl. For that to be LSU, they'll have to leapfrog Florida and Auburn. Auburn's 8-4, LSU 7-4. Auburn beat LSU head-to-head. LSU's not leapfrogging Auburn. So I don't know that they leapfrog Florida either. So for LSU, I think it's probably a question of, do they go to the Citrus Bowl, which could pick LSU, Leonard Fournette. There's an appeal there. If not, I think they probably go to the Liberty Bowl. They were in the Texas last year. Tax Slayer said they don't want anything to do with LSU, especially after the hurricane. They're not going to go to the Belk or the Music City because of geography. So it's probably either Citrus or one of the Florida Bowls or Liberty. Liberty
just doesn't sound, I mean, it's Memphis. It just doesn't have any, we say it's not a sexy pick.
It's not at all.
No.
But LSU didn't travel to the Outback Bowl when they played Iowa. I don't think Jacksonville is excited at all about LSU because of the LSU-Florida,
All right. I got a call for time. Send you back to Radio Land. You can listen to them from 3 to 6 on 100.3 in New Orleans and 104.5 ESPN. There's an app. There's all such stuff. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Moscona. Good night. Thank you. Get me out of here before I screw up more stuff.
Screwed up all the time.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry. See the mowers marching, prizes fill the sky. This Spanish Town Mardi Gras, may it never die. Poetry was everywhere, sweet music filled the air.